Hi everyone. So in this video we want to talk about expressions, just the basics. And actually we already know expressions because what we've already seen is that you can take a parameter and copy it to another parameter. For example, we could take the height of a tube, right click, copy parameter, and then paste it in the center. And when we with paste relative references, and if we divide this by 2, that was our little trick of making sure that our cylinder always stays on the ground. And this is an expression. So basically an expression is kind of a programmatic way of changing parameter values. Now let's go a bit deeper into this. First of all, we have seen that what happens when we copy a parameter, we get an expression called ch for channel, which is a reference to another parameter. Just to be clear, this actually works also with parameters from other nodes. So for example, if we take this sphere here, even though it makes no sense, but I want to quickly play around, I could take the center in y and control the height with that. And that means if I move my sphere now, I change the height of something else with it. Now, other things we've seen is that, for example, in a mountain node, you can control, if you put this on a sphere, let's say, like this, you can control the time by hand, or you put in an expression, for example, $f, which gives us the current frame. That's an expression variable, and the reason it has a dollar in front shows you it's one of the actual 3, but usually 2 languages are used for expressions, and this is the oldest one, which is called HScript, or the expression language. Then if we run this, you can see now the time. Unfortunately, it doesn't show you that, but when you scrub through, it shows you that. The number is now changing to the full frame. And as you can see, when I click with the left mouse button on the name of the parameter, not the input, but the name of it, I can switch between the expression and the result of the expression, because, you know, I'll probably want to know both. Now, the other thing I would actually recommend, instead of using $f, always use $ff, because it gives you the current subframe as well, which we can't see here, but later on we will actually have to work in simulations with frames that are between 2 frames. And that's a bit too confusing right now, but just keep in mind, use instead of f, just use $ff, and I will make this mistake a couple of times during the course. So do me a favor and just write a comment when I use $f, because probably what I should have used is $ff. Now this, like I said, gives you the current frame, and $ff gives you, which you can't see here, the subframe as well. We will talk about this later. But this might be, in this case, for example, a bit too fast. Even if I set it to real time, you can see it might be a bit too fast. So as an alternative, you could use $t. And that is the current time in seconds. And if you run this now, you can see it's slower because it just gives you the current time not in frames, but in seconds. Now, like I said, this is all $f, $ff, and $t. That's HScript. But you could also nowadays use vex for that. So instead of using $f, you could use @frame to read out the current frame, which is, by the way, the same as $ff, because it always gives you a float, including the subframes, even though we don't have them here because we always jump to the full frame. Or you could use time. So instead of $t, you use @time, and that gives you the current time in seconds, just with vex instead of HScript. But both are expressions. Now, it's quite a lot to remember. So is there an overview of all those variables? Yes, there is. When you just Google or look in the help for parameter expressions, then you find this help from side effects. Now, pretty much in the beginning here, it tells you again that there are different languages that are supported, the old HScript, even Python, which I have never used as an expression language, and vex. Then if you go further down, you can actually see that there is a list, which is brilliant, of all the variables that you can use. So we've seen f and $ff, which is, when in doubt, what you usually should use. The version of that in vex with an is frame, which is in the same list. And then we've seen down here $t and @time. But there's other stuff, like, for example, FPS, which gives you the current playback speed that is set down here in this button. Global illumination options, they are the frames per second that your project is set to. And then there's also stuff like f-start and f-end, which marks the beginning and the end of your frame range. And there are actually certain nodes that use those things. For example, the file cache node, it automatically sets the first and the last frame. And again, when you just click on the parameter, you can switch to the actual expression that is behind, which of course you can see because it's this bluish background color on it. And then you can see it actually uses f-start and f-end to automatically read out the first and the last frame, and you can use that yourself. Another thing that we can see in the file cache is the $f up here. So if we middle click on the parameter, then it calculates the whole thing. In this case, it's a string input, and then the left click doesn't work. You need to middle click on it. But anyway, what you can see is that the $f here in the name is automatically transferred to the frame number. And also what's interesting is the $OS, which is something you see sometimes, that is turned into the name of the node. So you can actually read out the name of the node itself in a parameter if you need that with $OS, which I think stands for operator string or something. I'm not 100% sure, but we should find it in our overview. Let's have a quick look. And there it is, yeah, operator string, that is, contains the current OP's name. Another thing you can see also, and this is really quite a lot you can find it with a file cache node, is the $hip name, which gives you the name of the current file that you're in, which currently in my case is not saved. And you will find this as well here in the overview. Here is hip name, hip file, hip, home, job. So all kinds of expressions that you can use as placeholders. And I would really recommend reading through this help page, which I of course have linked on the side, to get a better idea of all the options you have. What I forgot to show you is actually how to delete an expression. You can go to the parameter and then right click and go to delete channels. But there's even a faster way. Let's bring my expression back. Because when you right click, you can see there's actually a hotkey assigned to this. So if I just Control, Shift and left mouse click on the parameter, then it's gone with just one click. So what we've seen in this video is mainly how you use parameter references to connect parameters with each other, and how to use certain variables that are very powerful to kind of programmatically fill values into your parameters. In another video later on, we will look at a bit more what you can do with expressions, but that much for now because I don't want to blow up this video too much. This alone is very helpful and kind of necessary because a lot of nodes actually use those variables by default. So I hope this is helpful. Thanks very much, and read the help, and see you later. Cheers.